my name is Reese, and this is episode 1 of Learn With Me, American Sign Language. I knew I wanted to learn more about sign language because roughly 5% of the world has some sort of hearing loss according to the World Health Organization. Although it's not a verbal language, it is one of the world's most common, though it comes in many forms: American, British, Australian, and in different languages. The deaf community is very prevalent around the country, the world, but yet it doesn't receive the recognition it deserves. So, I want to bring focus to a community that hasn't received the attention it deserves by dedicating myself to learning sign language and helping you guys come along with me. Along my journey, I'll be using a multitude of different resources, both digital and physical, to guide myself towards the goal of learning sign language for myself. I will be sharing the resources I use along with the sources I use for my information in the bio, so be sure to look for that. So there are some basic signs that you need to know in order to start an initial conversation. For instance, the sign for hello in American Sign Language is, like a little salute. So what is the difference between deafness and hard of hearing? Aren't they the same thing? Actually, no. A small percentage of the people who actually need physical applications to hear better aren't actually completely deaf. Most of the world's difficulty hearing is mostly partial, even avoidable. So what's the difference? Deafness is a term that usually refers to one's completeness of hearing loss. It usually means someone who can't hear at all. Hard of hearing means it applies to a range of different hearing abilities, from just a little bit to more than a little bit. It depends on what the person feels like. It's a person's choice which one you use, so be sure to ask before you give them one specific label. Today is just for the basics. We're not going to get too crazy yet, just the basics so you can start a conversation and hold one with a person just for a little bit. So as I mentioned, this is hello, and as you can imagine, this is bye. Whether you use your right or left hand doesn't matter, but be sure to stick to your preferences. Don't switch back and forth. Also, when you're talking to someone who uses American Sign Language, be sure to remember that the syntax is a little different. Words like are, they're a little different, but when you're talking, be sure to say the words you're signing so that you can form a complete sentence and the other person can interpret you better. So continuing, some signs that are a little more obvious, like you, me, yes, and no. Those are some of the basics and some of the easiest to know. There are some that are a little more tricky, but easy to remember. For instance, if you're trying to sign book. On the trend of signs that look like actions, this is swim. As you can imagine, it looks like you're pushing yourself through the water, so keep that in mind. So, if I were to come up to you and ask you how you are, how would I do that? So as we know, this is for you, and this is for me. But how would I ask you a question? So there is a sign that can represent a lot of different words in one. How, what, where, etc. But it all depends on how you sign it. So if I were to ask you how would I go about doing that? So the action is like this. You put your hands together and go like this. Turn inwards and out with your thumbs. But to show that this question, you have to lower your eyebrows like this and say the word while you're signing it. Go like, how? How? So when I ask you a question about yourself, I'll go, how you? How you? So, as you can see, that is how you ask a person to a question. So, if someone asked me how I was, and I could just say, fine, I know how to do that. So, to sign fine, go like this. Fine, fine. So, if I were approached by somebody curious how my day was, they would go, how are you? And what could I say back? Fine. And if you want to reply even further, you can go, thank you. Raise your hand to your mouth and lower it like this, like a drawbridge. Thank you. So now that we know some of the ultimate basics, let's get into one of the more complex concepts of American Sign Language, the alphabet. Does it exist? Don't worry, it does. But it's a little more complicated than the regular alphabet that we all know and love. It involves a series of hand motions, each individual corresponding to the letter. But don't worry, there's only 26 of them. So to start, this is A. Make a fist with your thumb on the outside. A. A. Next, B. B looks like this. B. Hold your hand up and move your thumb around. And for the letter C, go like this. If you're noticing something, it's that the motions for these letters look like the letters themselves. This is a nifty trick for when you can't remember. And for the letter D, it looks a little something like this. D. Clasp your fingers like this and stick your pointer finger up. D. Notice it looks like anything? And for the letter E, go like this. E. Kind of looks like an E from the side. Hold your hand like this and put your fingers right on top of the thumb. E. And for the letter F, hold your hand up and go like this. F. And for the letter G, go like this. As if you're measuring about an inch or so. Hold your hand up and go like this. For the letter H, go like this. H. The next one's an easy one. For the letter I, hold your hand up, stick up your pinky. I. For the letter J, things get a little tricky. Now do the sign for I, just like this, but for the swoop of the J, go like this, as if you're scooping some peanut butter. J. Make sure to do the motion while you're signing the letter J, otherwise other people might interpret it as an I. J. The letter K looks a little something like this. Put your hand up, like that. K. Looks like the letter K. Next one's an easy one too. For the letter L, go like this. There it is, an L. For the letter M, go like this. Hold up your hand and leave 3 fingers on top, making sure to put your thumb underneath. M. The letter N is a little similar, but instead of 3 fingers, leave just 2. N. Letter O is easy too. Just like that. Letter O. The sign for the letter P looks something like this. Take your hand, go like that. Thumb underneath your pointer and middle finger, point your fingers down. P. The sign for the letter Q is similar to the sign for P, but repeat the sign for K upside down. Q. The sign for the letter R looks like this. Cross your fingers. R. The sign for the letter S looks similar to the sign for A, but put your thumb in front of your fingers. S. The sign for the letter T looks similar to the sign for the letter S, but put your finger between your pointer and middle finger, like this. The sign for the letter U looks like this. Your pointer and middle finger sticking up in the air. And the sign for the letter V is similar to the letter U, but spread your fingers like that to make a V. The sign for the letter W is similar to V, but stick your ring finger out to make a W. The sign for the letter X looks like this. Hold your hand up, make a hook with your finger, like that. X. The sign for the letter Y looks like this. Your thumb and your pinky sticking out, similar to the surfer hand symbol, but like this. Y. And the sign for the last letter, Z, you take your pointer finger and trace the symbol for the letter Z in the air. Make sure to do it carefully and precisely, so the person Make sure to do it carefully and precisely so the person interpreting you can understand that you're signing the letter Z. And if this is too fast for you, go back and watch this at a slower speed to catch all the letters. With enough practice, you can master these in no time. Don't forget, there's a multitude of online resources you can use to memorize and manage your expertise in all things sign language. And now some history about DC and the deaf community. One of DC's most notable schools, Gallaudet University, was founded in the 1800s as a grammar school for deaf children. It has since evolved into a university and college for people both deaf and non-deaf, but it still remains one of the most prized and respectable colleges in the district. DC is also home to a multitude of different businesses and restaurants owned by deaf people or people of hard of hearing. But don't forget, if you're looking for something new to try this weekend or just going on a whim, try out a new restaurant owned by someone deaf or of hard of hearing. Just give it a shot. You never know what you might experience. At the end of each episode, a poem by a deaf poet will be featured from the website Deaf Poet Society. Don't be afraid to check it out. It features a collection and archive of prose and poems and stories written by deaf and disabled writers. Today we have an excerpt from Mora Alia Baji, a poem called Autoimmune. My bones sing red, lift half notes blurred beneath flame-lit rooms. My jingle joints leave, word of warrior songs I bleed. Unstuck accordion fan blooms, chase time through impatient veins. My bones sing red, bending blue notes around smoked edges, placed end to end. My joints spark bright, white-hot stark runes flared, thrown against night. My joints sputter, stutter step sparks. Read white-hot rumor spent, stark lines redefined, repurpose, despair. My bones sing red. If you want to check out more of that, don't be afraid to check out deafpoetsociety.org.